This is a summary of How to Win Friends and Manage Remotely, a book by McKenna Sweakzy. Dale Carnegie wrote the classic self-help book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, nearly 100 years ago. Here, McKenna Sweakzy updates it and adds information to address today's management concerns. She recognizes that supervising and relating to employees in distant locations is one of the biggest challenges managers face today. Leaders have various tools for effective virtual management, but as Sweakzy reports, maintaining relationships as a remote manager demands empathy. She provides insight and advice on many issues that challenge long-distance managers, including how to make teammates enthusiastic about working together, even if they never see one another face-to-face. Okay, let's hear takeaway 1. Empathy makes you a better manager, especially for remote teams. Managers must engage their remote team members and get them to cooperate positively with one another, even though they may never meet. A rank or two up the ladder, executives want to increase the involvement of their best managers, including those with remote teams, encourage them, coach them remotely, and make sure they don't quit. All right, here's the second takeaway. Remote work undercuts personal connections, but it does have benefits. One risk of remote work is that people you spend a lot of time with can lose their humanity and become two-dimensional images on a screen. While this personal distancing is a difficult side effect, employees appreciate remote work's flexibility. Remote workers feel they can concentrate on their work while achieving a better work-life balance. One result of remote work is that team communication, which once relied on the in-person nuances of body language, facial expression, eye contact, and tone of voice, now operates in a whole new arena. Time for takeaway number 3. Virtual management requires understanding how empathy works. Leaders have technological tools that can help them become effective virtual managers. Yet their ultimate success depends on developing insight into an essential element of human relationships: empathy, the ability to sense and comprehend someone else's feelings. As a manager, consider how you employ empathy, how you tap into your understanding of other people and the emotions they are experiencing. Can you pick up on their signals and read them correctly? The need for empathy prevails whether your employees are with you in the office or report to you from their homes. We've reached the 4th takeaway. Distinguish between empathy and sympathy. While you need to understand how others feel, that is empathy, you don't have to agree with them, which would be sympathy. Employees' performance improves with managerial empathy. Empathetic treatment boosts their abilities, makes them easier to direct, and increases their capacity for working cross-functionally. When your employees work from home, that makes it hard to have such a direct impact. You can remediate that problem by adopting a popular third option, a hybrid strategy mixing remote and in-office work. For your employees to be able to work this way, you must structure their assignments accordingly. For example, individuals should have both independent assignments and interactive tasks, but should not have to interact in person constantly in order to achieve their goals. To align evaluations with what people can achieve when they work remotely or on a hybrid schedule, managers should assess their employees based on measurable, numerical outcomes rather than hours worked. To help you carry out your remote work successfully, give it a designated chunk of time and set aside space at home that gives you a sense of being in a work zone, the same sort of feeling being in an office provides. Okay, let's continue. Here's the 5th takeaway. Keep your emotions under control. Your ability to understand what your team members and colleagues feel depends on your capacity to keep your own emotions in check. You can't assess other people's views accurately unless you can contain your own feelings so they don't cloud your judgment. Be aware that negative emotions can spread infectiously because bad moods are contagious. The primary requirement you must fulfill to understand other people's viewpoints is to listen to them, either in person or remotely. Absorb what they say, consider what they may not be saying, and make them feel heard. How you think and feel affects the kind of attention you can pay to others. If you feel happy, others will pick up cheerful feelings from you. Conversely, if you obviously feel down, others may reflect your misery. When people work in an office, they interact in a human manner. They may fight, become friends, collaborate, or even fall in love. However, virtual connections tend to dehumanize participants. To combat this dehumanization, enhance your communication skills. Leaders may see video conferencing as a potent tool, but it, too, has weaknesses. For instance, it can make participants feel tired. Your brain must work extremely hard to absorb the information you receive in an online conversation. When you are paying attention to speakers online, your brain processes what they say in an entirely different way than it does when you are meeting with them in person. You must derive all the information you can about another person's body language and its meaning from the few hints you glean from images on a screen. Digital communication disrupts the natural cadence of a one-to-one conversation, especially when more than two people participate. Okay, here's another takeaway. Make yourself more accessible to your colleagues. When you communicate remotely, consider methods you can use to remain aware of your colleagues' or teammates' individual humanity. Everything you say or do will convey a message. Be thoughtful about how you present yourself and be aware of your wardrobe, tone of voice, speaking pace, gestures, and facial expressions. This necessary attentiveness can lead to a lack of fun in shared digital workspaces, which are in danger of becoming more like production facilities than launch pads for teams pursuing creative objectives. Take advantage of the ability of verbal communication to convey a richness of meaning that most business writing can't convey. And if you send internal written messages, use the tools you have, such as emojis, to lighten them up when appropriate. Let's move on to takeaway number 7. Working from home can impede building relationships. Effective team building fuels prosperous companies. When Gallup studied how teams function or fail, it found that engagement, which takes place when employees feel enthusiastic and involved in their work, plays an important role. The findings of a Google study called Aristotle reflect that empathy also plays a pivotal role. The study underscores the importance of psychological safety in creating a successful team. Members should feel comfortable moving team discussions outside of subject areas they see as routine or safe. They should feel they can express their thoughts without fear of ridicule or violent opposition. Teams work better and meet their goals more effectively when their members are happy and not anxious. A boss who can create such a work environment has accomplished something singularly important. Leaders must build a strong culture as the foundation for all work-related activities, at home or in the office. Often, organizations have principles they believe in, but their leaders haven't considered how those principles become part of their culture. Most people need help understanding the concept of corporate culture anyway, so managers face particular challenges when they try to convey their corporate culture to remote workers and to make them feel like they're an integral part of it. Do not allow the way you define your culture to be turned into an excuse for excluding people who are new or different. Okay, here's the 8th takeaway. Virtual team building exercises reinforce connections among teammates. The ultimate goal of team building exercises is to create psychological safety. However, you can define and achieve other, more tangible goals, such as improving your team members' technical capabilities as well as their emotional connections. Skill-based team building helps develop everyone's sense of community and shared purpose. In their book, Understanding Management, Richard Daft and Dorothy Marsick suggest that bonded teams have more drive, thanks to enhanced communication and shared decision-making. To execute virtual team-building exercises, consider your goals, timing, and the player's reaction. To plan appropriate activities to build relationships, consider a range of possibilities. For example, think about how often you should hold your team-building exercises. You risk alienating your team members if you don't hold enough activities, but people could also interpret an excess of meetings as your failure to understand the importance of their time. To build durable links with your employees, foster a healthy team environment. Show your authentic self, so your connection with your team members can rest on a foundation of honesty and authenticity. Schedule one-on-one meetings with each team member. Before you talk to a remote colleague, consider how the conversation might go if you were meeting in person. Think about what your employee may need, a factor that could vary substantially among employees. Now for the 9th takeaway. Share corporate know-how with employees in remote locations. Sharing knowledge, person to person or in groups, is integral to corporate life. But unfortunately, much of the potency of communication gets lost when people work virtually. Remote leaders must devise communication methods that deliver appropriate information to the right people. Fortune 500 companies lose an estimated $31.5 billion a year because they fail to share knowledge properly. Your team should work out the best ways for members to share ideas in an environment where people access information at different times and from different locations. Make sure members can get to the information they need, either in summary or in detail. Effective information sharing clarifies your organization's work and its environment and helps team members feel safe, certain, and confident. When people work amid uncertainty, they are ill at ease. To help your team focus its energy, be thoughtful about what you communicate and work to resolve team members' uncertainties. Leaders have to develop methods for capturing documents and distributing knowledge. Make sure new employees have access to your organization's knowledge, contacts, and other information they need to work effectively, as well as access to their team's communications. Okay, time for takeaway 10. Enable potential hires to show their strengths in your job interviews. When job applicants feel nervous in an employment interview, they don't perform as well as they could. The person interviewing them should recognize that dynamic. Organizations that make job candidates feel at ease may gain a larger pool of candidates. The people you are interviewing need to feel that you are listening to them. Give candidates an impression of psychological safety while acknowledging that your work environment makes demands on employees. Be empathetic, but clear about what the job entails. Now let's hear the 11th and final takeaway. Boost your capacity for empathy. Leaders should feel curious about people they don't know. To work on your empathy skills, use social media sites like Instagram to follow a variety of people with whom you might not ordinarily interact. When they post something you don't understand or agree with, try to see it from their point of view. To find people looking at issues from different perspectives, check a Reddit forum called Change My View. Or to gauge how someone approaches an issue, try to explain a skill or problem you know well to him or her and be aware of the reaction you get. Consider someone whose life differs from yours. Learn how people of another faith worship, or observe how people live in a neighborhood that is different from yours. Reading literary classics also can help you understand someone else's point of view. And, for solitary pursuit of empathy, boost your compassion with loving kindness meditation. That was a summary of How to Win Friends and Manage Remotely, a book by McKenna Sweakzy. Here's the 11 takeaways again. Takeaway 1, empathy makes you a better manager, especially for remote teams. Takeaway 2, remote work undercuts personal connections, but it does have benefits. Takeaway 3, virtual management requires understanding how empathy works. Takeaway number 4, distinguish between empathy and sympathy. Takeaway 5, keep your emotions under control. The 6th takeaway, make yourself more accessible to your colleagues. Takeaway 7, working from home can impede building relationships. Takeaway 8, Virtual team building exercises reinforce connections among teammates. Takeaway number 9. Share corporate know-how with employees in remote locations. Takeaway 10. Enable potential hires to show their strengths in your job interviews. And the final takeaway, boost your capacity for empathy.